All right, it is a Wednesday, and I'm on the road with my friends Van and TJ, and we are going to the Tulsa Dream Center. The church I serve, we've been feeling the call to be serving the local poor, and we know that we need to look at other models and ministries that are doing this. And so I became aware of the LA Dream Center because of a video I saw online, and then we learned that there's a Dream Center just here in North Tulsa. So I looked them up and we set up a schedule. We did some basic research before we hopped in the car. They were formed in 1999. They are tied to Victory Christian Center. They have a number of programs that they do to help the local poor. And we don't know how much potential overlap there is, but we know we have a lot to learn. So we're going to show up and they're going to take us on a tour, and we'll just see what there is to learn. The LA Dream Center works with people in generational poverty, living on the streets. So they deal with the homeless problem. They talked about how the state of California is spending like between $20,000 and $30,000 a year on each homeless person in the streets. They said LA Dream Center spends $6,000 for a full year of taking care of each person. And then they were able to go through the facility and interview individuals that they were housing, educating, equipping. And then addiction has a lot to do with that as well. So they had a strong addiction ministry. And then the assumption I carried with me was that all dream centers would be dealing with the same root issues of poverty and addiction. But it seems like your facility, it does deal with systematic poverty, but y'all come at it, I think it seems to me y'all focus on children more, you focus on education. It seems like you focus on resourcing about as much, where when people come in, you're able to hook them up with resources and stuff. What differences do you think, would you say you have? Well, and I'm also curious with other institutions in North Tulsa, like what do y'all do that is different? And then what do y'all do that's really good? It's obvious that y'all have a great footprint in the community. Y'all know who people are. But then I'm also curious about how you're able to figure out how much good you're getting done. So I don't know what kind of metrics y'all can hold on to, because it seems like there are multiple points of contact. And if it's the work that I think it is, there's a lot of failure, but you also have success stories. Do you have any sense of what things you do work really well? That I just threw a whole bunch of stuff at you, but I'm interested in anything you have to any.
No, absolutely. Yeah, so you have 2 to 3 type of models of dream centers that you'll see floating around the U.S. One is the LA Dream Center model that focus very heavily on homeless, drug addiction, mental health. Like that's their big core. Then you have like the Phoenix Dream Center or the St. Louis Dream Center, even like Atlanta Dream Center, sex trafficking. Like that's the main thing. Homeless and sex trafficking. Like those are the 2 areas that they really, really focus on. Like the Phoenix Dream Center, they have housing purely for young women that they're escaping out of sex slave trafficking. Like that's all they do.
Wow.
But then you have the Tulsa Dream Center, we're more have more of a community-led focus of like holistic. We're like a boys and girls club with social services wrapped around it. So that's kind of the best way to like, if you want to kind of tie it in a bun, like what the Dream Center, the Tulsa Dream Center does. We're like that. We're like a social service agency, Boys and Girls Club with the social services wrapped around it. Because people, they understand the Boys and Girls Club concept of boys and girls come here for after school tutoring. They come to Boys and Girls Clubs for sports. So what we do, we're really big on any of those things. We have sports leagues from basketball to baseball, to flag football, soccer, but then we have after-school program, really strong after-school program, whether here on site or at our 2 remote locations. Our after-school program has expanded to our elementary school as well as a middle school that's in our community. But then we serve on this site the other 8 elementary schools and middle schools and high schools those kids don't attend those 2 schools that we are at their locations.
So you operate at multiple sites, not
3
just
sites,
this one.
not just
3 sites. Okay.
Yeah, 3 sites, but in that 3 sites, you're looking at 16 schools being impacted between those 3 sites.
Wow.
And we run buses to the other locations and bring those boys and girls here. And so you have all those things that happen, but then we do a lot of things during the daytime that really impact parents and adults in the area of poverty. So whether it's financial assistance or some type of educational component, whether it's or service that we're able to render towards them, whether it's tax prep or financial classes, GED, the spiritual different classes that we have during the daytime that families can attend and individuals can be a part of. So you have all those series of layers of things that take place during the daytime. And we say we have like 6 primary pillars here at the Dream Center: food, clothing, medical, education, and recreation and character development. And then our 6th one is housing. And so with housing, it's, doing things like literally physical structure. We have home ownership class, that ties in with the financial class. People get to the point where let's get their credit up where it needs to be, and they get their finances together, so then we can get them financed to actually buy their own home. And because most of the homes in our community are rentals, like this whole area is basically like a big, huge apartment complex, just a bunch of single-family homes. So our goal is, how do we create more single-family homeowners in the community? Because when you have homeowners, you have stability. You have people that's going to have agency in the community. They're going to have buy-in in the community because they're not leaving at the end of their lease. It's much harder to run someone out of their home because their house got broken into when they own their home than in comparison to someone that rent their own home.
So the housing piece, is that new?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fairly new.
So do y'all own any real estate, or is it more of just?
So we're in the process right now of acquiring the empty lots and the boarded up homes around and we're focusing on this side of 46th Street, or not 46th, but Martin Luther King Boulevard, and on this side of 56th Street. And so we're kind of focused on this box here to acquire as many properties as we can in this area, and then we'll expand from there. And
I'm remembering on your bio that I read this morning, it said that you personally, not just professionally, but personally, this is an area that you're, I don't remember the exact language, but it seemed that you were investing in real estate locally, and affordable housing, I think, was a term.
Yeah, and that was something that the affordable housing aspect was something that I really felt really strongly in for years. And just really wasn't able to get the Dream Center as an organization to move on. And so once I became executive director, I was like,
you're just going to do it anyway.
We're doing it now.
So it's on my mind. The recreational side, I like that you said the recreational and character building together. Do you guys, I wouldn't say have any classes or anything like that, and I know a lot of it comes being on the sports fields and stuff like that. But do you guys do something other than just practicing in games and like that with the kids on the character building side of stuff?
Yeah, so it's interesting how it worked out. Like, I say back in 2010, he put like 8 core values, if you will. Like, I was praying to ask God, like, what do you want us to impart into our boys and girls? And just trying to be intentional about it. and he gave me eight words: honest, fair, strong, wise, kind, intelligent, courageous, and ambition. And so I wrote those eight down, and we created a curriculum, like what does each one of those things, um, what are those things, and how do we want to impart that into our boys and girls, and we wrap that into everything that we do. So whether it's our after school program or it's our sports programs, and it's ironically enough that all of our sports, the leagues, they last 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And so every
pretty
week
cool.
every week is a theme,
Yeah.
and so so the coach, it's like, oh, this week is our word is honesty, and the kids, they hear it year after year after year after year, and they to the point where even our staff, like all of our staff, like they know those 8 core values. Like we use that to encourage our boys and girls. We use it to redirect our boys and girls. And so a coach, he may be a Hawthorne Elementary coach, and and our teams are school driven. So like our elementary schools, all of them have school teams, and it's the principals, it's the school's team. It's not our team that we assembled at the Dream Center. They practice, they try out, most of them at their school, and then they play the games here at the Dream Center.
Mm-hmm.
But we give the lessons to the coaches and say, hey, this week you guys talking on honesty. So during practice, they will do that lesson on honesty with the boys and girls, and it's typically like a 10, 15-minute discussion. And then on game day, when we have our time here, we'll pray and we'll do a quick, like 5-minute stand-up nugget on honesty. It's like, hey, so this week, boys and girls, your coach talked to you guys about honesty. Can someone tell me something about it? What did you guys learn? And that's my way of making sure that, and the coach is in the circle, so like he knows that, like, dang, like PT he's gonna ask the kids,
Yeah.
and so if I don't do it, like I'm gonna look foolish. Cause I'm gonna like, yo, like don't forget you're supposed to be doing it, because none of the kids have anything to say. I'm gonna circle back around to the coach, I'm like, hey, like remember, like this is part of teaching them.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's more than basketball. Like we need these character lessons being brought into it as well. And so there's a constant follow up, and I guess you can say like we intentionally do things as a form of a follow up. I don't sit down and say, hey, are you doing your lessons with the kids? I have a good.
It's gonna show.
Yeah, it's going to show and around. Then after that, like, can you guys tell me something? And typically, they're teaching it to their peers at that point. And then it's like, all right, good. Who's going to pray with us today? And then we circle up and we pray. And it's interesting because a lot of the parents don't even realize the conversation that's happening in the center of the floor when we're doing that. But we do the same thing with soccer. We do the same thing with flag football. We always circle up and pray before the games.
So you guys ran through the actual Boys and Girls Club?
No.
Okay, so
No.
you kinda have your
I was
own-
saying we're just our own. I was saying we're kind of like a Boys and Girls Club,
okay.
but we're not affiliated with the Boys and Girls Club. Yeah. If you kind of think of the things that the Boys and Girls Club have to offer, we offer a lot of those same type things, especially when it comes to sports and education. But I like to think we do it much better than they do.
Sounds
And
like
and
so do you, this is one thing I ran into a lot last year. Do you guys do any sort of like you call it a shoe drive,
Mhm.
A lot of the times it was hard for a lot of the kids to come up with the funds on there, and their parents come up with the funds to get jerseys and get, and even if it is $50 to play, some
Yeah,
people
yeah.
just can't do that.
Yeah, all of our services we provide them for free, and so we have sponsors that will sponsor like the uniforms and different things. Depending on the sport, we may get a little more than in some areas than others. Like soccer, for instance, we want nothing for soccer, because we have FC Tulsa, which is a local FC soccer team. They take care of all the uniforms. They pay for the uniforms. And it's not even really them that pays for it. They are connected with so many different people.
Yep.
They brought Adidas to the table. Adidas does all the kids' cleats and their shin guards, and the soccer balls are Adidas soccer balls. And then BNSF Railway, they take care of the cost of the uniforms. They also they have another sponsor that takes care of the stipend for all the coaches. Let's see. I'm trying to think of anything else that we may need. So Target, they're a sponsor as well, and so FC Tulsa, they basically use kind of like their star power, if you will, to get people to rally behind the soccer league. And we served over 400 boys and girls in our soccer league this past year. And then, baseball, we partner with this organization called RBI, which stands for Restoring Baseball in the Inner City. And so they take care of all the uniforms, equipment, supplies, and that's actually the nonprofit for one of the nonprofits for Major League Baseball. And so they bankroll all of that, takes care of all the expenses. The only thing that they do not take care of is like a stipend for the coaches. So if we can offer stipends, we do. If not, we don't. So we don't pay stipends to our coaches on baseball. Actually, soccer is the only league that we pay stipends for when I think about it. And then basketball, we have. It used to be the Tulsa 66ers. They used to sponsor. Now it's the Thunder. They help and they put in for our Dream League basketball league. So all our leagues are called Dream Leagues, but Dream League soccer, Dream League flag football, Dream League basketball, and so it just depends. Okay. But as far as uniforms, for basketball, most of the schools, they reach out to one of their partners and they take care of the uniforms, and it's they get really nice uniforms that they use the same ones from year to year, and it has the school's name on it, their mascot, their colors, and it's even like the pom squad, like they'll have pom squads, like the girls have like cheerleaders and stuff like that. I mean, it's like high school sports on an elementary school level.
So you guys have like a rec director?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
He or she's information.
Yeah. He's actually he's probably coming back from the doctor here, but it's Larry. Larry's a great guy. And also, I have an amazing team. So I'm out. This first part of January, there were certain people like Marquise that I just went around. So I need people that I know that I can trust. Yep. And so I said, hey, I know you have a heart for the Dream Center. I trust you. I know you believe in what's going on in our community. Will you come on board with Mental Dream Center? And so most of the staff that we have here are brand new. And we didn't have a lot of staff, but there was just with the transition, there was a lot of transitioning happening amongst staff. And so everyone that was here in February, I literally just wrote out, these are all the positions. This is who in those places. So these are the seats on the bus. This is your opportunity to move. If you want to change seats, say so now. If you want to, your change of seats could be, moving over here. Change of seats could be getting off the bus. Totally fine. Mm-hmm. Whatever you want to do, this is your opportunity to do so. And you had some that was like, I think it's a great time for me to get off the bus. You had some like, man, I want to be over here. For instance, Larry, he was over transportation. He really wanted to be in recreation. And the gentleman that was over recreation, he was getting off the bus. And so it's like, I want that seat. Yeah. And so I'm like, you got it. And so we just kind of, we just went through and just gave, people opportunities. And then then after that, then I started filling it in with people like Marquise and Rodney and Miss Cynthia and different ones.
So with the individual finance, the financial literacy, plus the housing literacy stuff that you've done, is that all one person, or is that two different people dealing with empowering people financially?
It's different.
Okay.
Because we have our Financial Empowerment Center, which was a grant that we have with the City of Tulsa and the Bloomberg Foundation, and they provide financial counselors to do it's one-on-one financial mentorship with them. So
it's not like a group. Okay.
Mm-hmm. No, because what we found that when we do those financial classes for groups of people, it was very lightly attended.
See, that's what direction I was going to go with you. It's really hard to get folks.
Yeah, no one wants to talk about their personal business in a class setting like that. It's too personal,
So how did you get those people to do the one-on-one even?
They just kind of responded to one-on-one.
Yeah. You just offered it and they said,
yeah. We offered it and we said, yeah. Most of them came in through utility assistance or rental assistance. Was partnered with Restore Hope with the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And so individuals that Restore Hope has a program where you can go online, or CCP as well, where you can go online and you can fill out a rental assistance application to get help with your rent or utilities. Well, a lot of people in our community does not have internet. And so we offered it to individuals, and we will file it for them here. And so they'll come in, sit down at a computer, and we will help them file it. And especially then, even them just being able to navigate. And so we'll say, hey, bring these documents, and we'll walk you through the steps. And so we walk you through and say, hey, one of the things, so after walking through the steps, we say one of the services we like to provide for those that need rental assistance and utility assistance is that we ask you to do 1 hour with our FEC coach, and which stands for Financial Empowerment Center. So like, we want you to do an hour with them, and like they help you with your whatever financial goal that you have. So if it's if it's I just want to pay my bills on time, we'll do that. If it's I want to eliminate this debt, so it's very customized to that individual, because not everyone has all financial goals. Like if I went around the room and said, hey, what's your financial goal? It'll probably be different. We got 6 people in here, we'll probably get 6 different answers, right? And so same way with our people. And so they'll do that hour, and it's not required, but it's just strongly encouraged. And most of them take it, and to the point where like their docket, they schedule the appointments, and they told us, hey, can you guys press pause on that for a minute, because we can't catch up. And so
with the housing ministry, is that also one-on-one coaching, counseling, or is that more of a group?
Yeah, so now that is more class-based, okay. And that's done through Grand Bank. And so Grand Bank, they provide a person, and they were doing that before the Dream Center. They was doing that for me, and it was kind of like a personal thing. I will having it at. I started a tuition-free elementary private school up the street, and so we was doing it up there in the evening time for parents, and there'll be a group of, and it may be a group of like 10 or 12 individuals, and we're talking about home ownership and what does that look like, and so the FEC will help them get their credit to where it needs to be, or their finances where it needs to be. And then the financial classes, the home ownership class is a class that's required for you to be in the pathway to get financing through Grand Bank. Grand Bank, they will not give you the loan without you going through their class. And so that's an incentive. They're like, okay, I want to be a homeowner. Mm-hmm. You mean tell me I just have to sit in an hour class for the next 13 weeks? That's it. All right, I'm game.
And is this mostly parents of children that you guys are ministering to in your other programs?
Yep. Yeah. 90% of them easily their kids are connected within the Dream Center in some way, form, or fashion. And that's the goal. It's like, how do we break the cycle of poverty over like the whole entire family? And so having services for the adults, having services for kids. And when I say kids, I'm saying anyone under 18. Mm-hmm. So just being able to reach the whole entire family in that manner. But then what are we doing to impact the mom, the mom and dad, or auntie and uncle, grandma, grandfather, like whoever parental person, head of that household? What are we doing to help impact them? We also partner with Tulsa Work Advance and assist with like job seeker workshops. We do a number of job seeker workshops here when they're, like for instance, Aon was doing a big hiring event at their location. They're located off of 76th Street North. Well, we know accessibility may be an issue for a lot of people, so it's okay. Like, let's do it where it's right in their community, so they can come over here to it, and we may even provide transportation for people to be able to get here. Because Aon, they're a great company where they actually provide transportation they have pickup locations around town, where if you work for them, if you can get to this spot, they'll get you to their location. And so like they have one at pickup spots. Actually, they're looking at, with all the people that they were able to hire through the event here, there may be one here at the Dream Center, but right now there's one at the Rue Sale Library, which is off of Pine. And they're like Pine and, in between Pine and MLK and Peoria. And so the Rue Sale Library there's a van that goes there every single morning, and a couple of times a day shift, pick up and drop off right there for all the employees. So if I live in this community and I work at Aon, I just got to get to Rudisell. I get to Rudisell, then I get a ride to work. And so they're a great company.
So you help people get jobs. Do you do any like job training, like basics of like getting and keeping a job, showing up on time? I forget what there's a term for that, but y'all teach courses in that.
Yeah, and that's what Tulsa Work Advance. They go through all that. So they do the job seeker workshops. That's part of the module. Like they go through these different classes, and we typically couple that with like food or clothing or some other services that you come to. You know, we just kind of really strategically just place it at the same time. So if you come on a Tuesday, for instance, yesterday we had the job seeker workshop that started at 10, and people had to be seated here by 10 o'clock for a service, and it was a 30-minute class, and then Pastor Wendell, he got up and he ministered about 15-20 minutes, and then they got the groceries. And so we just kind of looped it all together in 1 hour. So you get the job seeker workshop, you get the spiritual aspect of things, and then boom, you get your groceries. And so we kind of loop it all in together. And then sometimes like the longer class, we may say, hey, immediately after groceries, we have this going on. Or it could be, at 9 o'clock, this class is taking place, and then we have grocery service after that. But you'd be surprised how many people they come and they attend those classes, and they're always well attended. Like yesterday, I think it was anywhere between 35 and 40 that was here just for the job seeker workshop. And the job seeker workshop actually yesterday was start at 9 because it was long. They did like some resume writing and some mock interviews and different things with them.
So I know Van well enough, I can speak for him too. But I know, and that was only kind of a joke, but there are many churches in town for whom they've been working with this model for some time of build and design ministries that engage children in a fun way that also hopefully builds them up and blesses them and sends them home. And the hope has been that the families would follow the kids and come close, and as they do so, we can build relationships. Generally speaking, it has not worked out at all for at least a decade. And we've just noticed that parents are increasingly indifferent to the efforts of the church to build relationships with them, and they're happy to take services, but not at all eager to engage in building relationships. And it could be that we're just so untrustworthy that we shouldn't, but I obviously don't think that's the case. So I wonder how much y'all deal with that phenomenon of just ambivalent parents who come around and, okay, what can you give me? I'll take that. But no, I don't want to be friends. I don't want to. How much of that do you deal with? And then do you really deal with many adults that are like, yeah, okay, I need to shake things up. I need something new. What can?
I would say, yeah, I'm sure like we have some parents that are like that, but we're very relational driven. And so, like for instance, every Friday we go out and we visit and we knock on doors and we talk to parents and families that we're connected with, and that's like a religious like ritual thing like we do, like to the point where people they just know we're coming, and so I think like because of those relationships, we never really have to like really like pull people and tell people to come to things. We just say, hey, this is happening, and then people show up. And so that's what I'm saying. I'm sure that there's some people that are just like, I will not go, and I'm not trying to do this or do that, but we're not really pushing you either. And so it's like, hey, this is available, and so like if you show up, you show up. If you don't, you don't. Like, but we're not keeping tally if you wasn't there, But in the same, like if you say, man, I'm really struggling in this area, and I may say, oh, it's like, man, I'm really looking for, if a mom comes to me and say, I'm looking for a job, I'm like, well, we have a job seeker workshop on Tuesday. You should come up and check it out. And because my relationship with them, and I've probably known them for a couple of years, and even maybe if I just know them for a few months, they know that like I care, like I genuinely care. And so they're like, okay, let me come check that out. Like I can call them up and give a good word in for you. Like, come check out this class, and I know they're gonna be doing some interviews, and they got this going on. Maybe it's something you want to check out, and then they just engage. But I haven't had anyone in my almost 13 years. I haven't had anyone just be like, I don't want to come to anything like that. Like I've just never experienced it, but I think just it's purely just because of just relationship,
Right.
and maybe just like I said, maybe just the approach that we have is very like non like committal, I guess you could say. It's like I don't know, like I don't really like, I'm not trying to force anybody to come to anything. It's like, hey, well, this is what we have. And then maybe people that just don't look at us as a church either. I don't know. And so, yeah.
Some people do look at you as a church, but not necessarily everybody.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So I think there's that one, like they say, there's that one bad cancer cell. I mean, again, I use it always in sports analogies, but there's that one kid that will rub off on everybody. And I think there's so many more positive families here. And then in Nowata, you know, there's just that one family that'll start that stupid or just, you know, be negative about it. And that spreads to everybody so easy, so easy.
Yeah.
But I've watched these guys try to do everything, everything they can possibly do. And I was one that refused for a long time, you know. But there's so many families in Nowata that are so willing to accept anything and everything, but not put forth any effort at all.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah, and you'll definitely have those that just like they're just regardless of what, you know, you'll provide service to. I think about just one particular mom right now. It's like we'll probably be providing service to her until she dies.
Yeah.
You know, but her kids, they're in a like she already has one that's about to graduate college. You know, she was the first high school graduate in her family. You know, and her outcome is going to be totally different. She'll be taking care of her mom if the Dream Center is not going to be, you know what I mean? But I honestly like, and so she might have mentally said like, and I don't know like what's her. I'm not going to try to like I guess prescribe, if you will, like what was her reasoning and why she never took advantage of like the services that was available, but nor am I like I'm not coming after her about it either. You know, it's kind of like, you know, just the Bible says the poor will be with you always. She's just one of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap between what we try and do, and then there's some difference. Because what we are intentionally trying to do is work them into a community of faith, a regular, you know, weekly engagement with people who are praying with and for them and doing life together with them. And so there's some clear overlap with y'all doing that here, but also that not necessarily being the norm you're driving everybody at, or even it seems like you guys are really driven towards breaking the cycle of poverty really for a lot of people, and being not at peace, but just understanding there's a lot of folks that's already set in their ways and you're not going to change them. But for their children and grandchildren, there might be a different way of life that you guys open that door to.
Exactly. But then even like spiritually, like I'm still like I will constantly like I'm not a type of person that like I'm going to force you to like accept Christ, like, but I'm always going to give you an invitation, and you know what I'm about. And so like it's not, they will come to like just because we're doing life with them, like when they need prayer, better believe I'm the first person they're calling. Like yesterday, you know, there was two shootings that happened in less than 15 hours in our community, which was like a lot. I got phone calls about both those situations from families that was impacted by that, like multiple phone calls. And some of these families I haven't talked to in 6 months, and some of them I talked to, you know, the day before, you know, and so I'm spending my evening bouncing around from house to house, praying with people, and just ministering to them, and for me, like that is unfortunately, because of the scenarios, like that happens more often than I would like it to, you know. But they know, like, and those are those opportunities where, like this, for instance, the shooting that happened in Comanche. You know, that mom, she's been around the Dream Center for probably 2 or 3 years, had never accepted Christ, but she did last night. You know, and not just her, but like multiple people that was there, that were the family members that was there, just like, yeah, like, we gotta change. Like, yeah, like, it's time. Are you ready now? It's like you see this path. Like this is this is the direction that you guys are going, and unless something like you're the head of this house, you know, that's I'm saying right now, like God wants to be the head of this house, but you're leading in the wrong direction because you don't know how. You're not equipped to. God, He would equip you to do so, but you had to have Him in you. You know, and so it's them seeing that, and then once you know life hits them, where it's like, okay, yeah, like it, and then
You guys have earned that trust. You've laid that groundwork. They're able to easily. They probably already transitioned in some sense, but just give themselves to the fullness of what you guys offer.
exactly.
And then at that point, it's pretty hard to fail.
Oh yeah, yeah, and then those people like they'll be plugged in forever. You know, they'll be, and that's what ended up happening. You know, they Tuesdays and Thursdays. A lot of people use them as Sunday mornings. Like to them, that's Sunday morning. Like, oh, I need you to come get plugged into God's CR. That's our Bible says. It's like so. Like last night, I was like, we have God's CR on Tuesdays. You should come be a part of it. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to be here. And I know she are. I know she will. Thursday nights we have our Bible school. They get plugged into our Bible school. And Thursday nights are typically we're doing some revamping of it because we have a new director of it, and just we're going to change the whole direction of it next year. And so it's not as well attended as it used to be, like pre-COVID. But I've kind of just like let's just let it kind of finish its cycle like this year, and then we're going to kick it back up. But man, year one we could easily have 60 to 100 people, and then year two will be around that same amount that would come in. But it's families that just have gotten connected, and it's you know, it's Bible school, so they're learning everything from apologetics to just Christian basics class. We call it Christian basics, but it's like just the ABCs of our faith. You know, because they just didn't, most of them just don't have that foundation.
Right.
You know, especially now, like you know, like that the generation. It's interesting. You know, I was like my generation. I was raised by my grandparents. My grandparents were, you know, I had some praying grandparents, but we did not attend church all the time. Like we primarily Christmas and Easter. Like growing up, I knew there was a baby that was born. That's why I'm getting Christmas presents. And then he grew up. He grew up as a man, and he died on the cross. And they say he died for me, and now I'm getting Easter eggs. Right. Like that was pretty much the gist of my understanding of the gospel. You know, growing up. But we prayed, you know, every day. You know, I watched Gospel Bill all the time. Love Gospel Bill.
You know that reference? You're grinning.
Willie George. Yeah, like it's funny. I didn't know who Church on the Move was. I know who Willie George was. But I knew who Gospel Bill was. I mean, when I first saw Willie George, I thought it was Gospel Bill. I said Gospel Bill. And I geeked out. Like because I'm a grown man. Like, oh my goodness, that's Gospel Bill. Like I didn't know he was here in Tulsa. Yeah. Like, no idea. And so I remember I called my grandmother, and I was like, Mom, like I saw Gospel Bill. She's like, no, you didn't. I was like, I did see Gospel Bill, and like I haven't seen it since I was a kid. You know, but yeah, but it is definitely that generation of just not necessarily being like connected to church and like knowing like and I still learn a lot, like the things of church. You know, like some of it may have a sense of like religiousness to it, but then there's something about rich things you do ritually that is good for you. But then it can also be like if it's not balanced, it can be very. It could be bad as well.
Oh, sure. Know? Oh, yeah.
But because of that, like you easily have a generation of young people that they don't even understand the good dynamic of like this is what you do at church. You know, it's just like we bow our heads and close our eyes when we talk to God. You know, like literally, I could stand in a room, especially our younger kids, and say, "Okay, boys and girls, let's pray." And they'd be like, "All right," but they wouldn't know.
Yeah, they don't know any difference.
Yeah, they don't know any difference.
Yeah,
you know, because they're not going to a church.
Yeah,
they're not going to church at all.
Yeah, they're post-Christian is what they are.
Yes, yeah. You have this pure post-Christian generation that's being raised up right now, and so.
Well, and the thing you said that rocked my world, and I just can't recover from it is we don't have a hard time generally in No Water getting people to make decisions for Christ. But getting them to live into that decision is really the hard thing. Yeah. Getting them into the baptismal font or getting them saved, whatever you want to say, making that decision point. A lot of pastors haven't had a hard time with that. It's how many of those people are there 2 or 3 years later, and the success rate is so low, so low. And the fear I often have is that we're inoculating them against the Holy Spirit, so that when they do encounter Him again, they've already done that. And so when you're saying, not only do they come and make a decision for Christ, but they're never going to leave. They're going to stick. And you said that with such confidence. I wanted to argue with you, but I just want to know where the difference is. You know, because I try and earn trust with our community as well. I used to go into the jail once a week, visit with the guys in there, be vulnerable to them, really get to know what they were about. Van, I know, has gone into people's homes. He's done yard work for them. He's done all kinds of service and help for them. But whenever it comes to make a decision for Christ and making a change of life and really living a transformed life, it's like none of that translates over whatsoever. So you're doing something that I can't speak for Van, but I'm very envious of, actually. And part of that is y'all have networked all kinds of different resources together to provide this kind of wraparound care that's so impressive. But there is something else that you've done that's earned trust. That it's weird, because no matter what I do, I feel like I'm still not there with people. Like they like me, they appreciate me, but they don't necessarily trust me. But they trust you, and that's pretty cool. And I don't know what you've done.
I don't either.
Yeah, right.
Like that I don't know. I mean, it's just like when I hear like Marquise talk, you know, like it's like I don't know what I've done for him to say that. You know what I mean? I didn't ask him to say that. You know what I mean? And it's just like I'm just here. Like I'm just serving. You know, I've been at Dream Center, like I said, almost 13 years, but I've been in the community since 2003. That's when I moved to Tulsa. And
I graduated from Booker T in 03.
In 03. Wow, makes me feel old.
You can't be much older than me, though.
Yeah, I mean, probably not. How old are you?
I'm 37.
Older than you think.
You look good, man.
Hey, I know, it's black don't crack. Yeah, thank you. But yeah, no, because I came to Tulsa as an engineer. I was working at this engineering firm, and we came to do a project for Seco ConocoPhillips, and it was just me. I would travel. I would go from city to city, and I was the single young engineer with no family. You know, because my grandparents, they lived in California. That's all I had, just them, and so it was nothing really tying me to Atlanta, and so I would spend Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday in one city, and then I would fly back and spend the weekends back in Atlanta. And so I kind of got tired of doing that. I came from Tulsa. Before I was at Tulsa, I was in Corpus Christi, and then before Corpus Christi, I was in Waco, and before Waco, I was in Chattanooga, and then Corning, North Carolina. And I typically spent about 3 to 6 months in each city, maybe 8. So this one got a little longer because Sitco, they decided to make things a little more harder than typical. And so that 3-month project turned to 8, and 8 turned to a year. But then after that year, I just decided I'm just gonna just stay here in Tulsa. And I really I'd say about 3 months in, I stopped going home on the weekends. And I started coaching a little baseball team at Vernon Manor because I had a baseball team in Atlanta. I wasn't able to go back and forth with them. And so, because they shifted our games to the middle of the week, I was like, dang, I can't play. I can't. So I'm gonna find me a team. And I just put a group of kids together. And so I just built a lot of relationship there.
And this was before you had a family of your own?
Yeah, it was before I had a family of my own. Yeah, like I drove up in my car and had a big, huge bag of baseball equipment. And I love baseball. I played baseball in college. And so after I finished when the project was wrapping up, and I decided to stay, I decided to move into one of the apartments here in Vernon Manor. And they kept saying, I grew up in South Central, so when you talk about the hood, this is not the hood. Like and so it's like, and so I was like, I'm gonna go stay at this, in this apartment complex. And I had a house in South Tulsa, but I really wanted to live in North Tulsa. And so I'm like, I'm just gonna rent this house out. I'm gonna move in here. And they were like, this is Section 8. You can't. I was like, man, and people, they thought I was crazy. It's like, here I am, with this 700 series BMW. They was like, he's either crazy or he's stupid, And I think people thought I was just really, really crazy, more so than stupid, because no one tried me.
I had the exact same experience. I lived in housing projects in North Little Rock, Shorter Gardens apartment. They were featured in HBO's Bangin' in Little Rock. I just lived there a year out of college, and they all thought I was selling drugs or something. Nobody messed with me. And I wasn't driving as nice a car as you, but I was just this educated white boy living in the middle of, I don't know, a half mile in every direction was just poverty and crime. But it was like there was a little bubble around me or something. I never had anything.
Yeah, that's what I tell people all the time. It's like I never had an issue with no one ever broke into my car, no one ever broke into my apartment. But during that time, I started doing like little after school stuff. I started doing a little after school program in the apartments, in the community center. Cause they had like I had a rec room that it was just basically it's a big room, and it had a bunch of crap in it, just all the stuff that was in it, and so I cleaned up, moved all the desks, and I made spaces for kids to come in, and I could help them with their homework, and then I do my baseball team. So I'll help them with their homework, and then we'll play baseball. And we just did it every day. So all the parents got to know me, and for Christmas I would call up friends from
This wasn't even through a church.
No,
You weren't tied to Victory or anything. That was
no,
just.
I'd never even heard of Victor at that point. And they didn't know who I was. I didn't know who they were. And like for Christmas, I would call up friends and say, hey, like, do you, I need some money. I'm going to get all the kids some sweaters and scarves and coats because they're cold. Like I'm seeing walking in with no coats. And I was buying them a lot with my own money. I made pretty good money, as an engineer. So, and I had no obligations. I had no financial obligations. So like, I had a nice nest egg, if you will, like saved up, just like. So I didn't even work for like 3 years. And I was like, I don't have to work. I could just do this. And so I was really kind of like this and enjoying life. And, some people, it's like, oh, you like being like a missionary. And for the most part, I knew Christ, but I wasn't like.
About Christ.
Yeah. I wasn't like really like all about it. Like I accepted Christ, and I did some, I wanted to learn more about the Bible. So I did like this seminary down in Bethany Seminary in Atlanta. I had went through that, but it's really more of I just wanted to learn more about the Bible. And I remember I told him, it was like, why are you here? It was like, you want to be a pastor? I'm like, no, I just want to learn more about the Bible. My roommate, he was Muslim, and he was always in the Quran. I told myself, I'm going to be a Christian. I want to know as much as I can. And so I just dove in head first with anything that I could. But so like when I was here, I was staying there, I just gained a lot of respect from a lot of people. So everyone knew me. That's like, they started calling me pastor before, like, they're like, he's a drug dealer or he's a pastor. Like, don't leave him alone. Either way,
Right.
You don't touch him. You know what I mean? And I used to like try to stop it. And then a lady in the front desk, she was like, no, you need to that's respect. Like if they're calling you that, like that's because they see something in you. And she was a Christian. And so she was like, like you just like. Just embrace it. And because I was always like correct him, like, no, I'm not a pastor, like that's not me. And she was like, oh, you are the pastor of this neighborhood. And because I would do like little Bible studies and share stuff that I was studying to like the parents and stuff like that. And they would just come. They would just come and just show up. And so I did that. So it's 2003 all the way to 2009. 2009.
And that's when you came on board here?
Yep, that's when I came on board here. There was an ice storm that came through at the Dream in Tulsa.
Remember that?
Yeah, froze up everything. I reached out to Pastor Wendell. He was the executive director at the time, and I asked him, "So what are you doing for the homeless?" And he was like, "We don't have anything planned. I don't have anyone that can be here, stay overnight with them." And he had heard about me because at that point, like the news have come and did stories on like what I was doing in Bernie Manor. And we crossed paths. By then, I crossed paths at Victory, and Victory, they reached out to me to do some things. I was doing stuff with Pastor Billy Joe because they were running buses in the neighborhood, picking up kids. And so me and the bus captains would sometimes get into. I was like, hey, I have an event. You can't roll in here with your bus taking all my kids. like you need to find out what we have going on in the neighborhood before you roll your bus in here, you know. And so I sat down with them and, you know, talked, and so then I was like, well, why don't you be the bus captain over this? I'm like, fine. They're like, you gonna give me a bus? Absolutely. I'll
At
take.
some point, there was a lady who took a liking to you.
Oh yeah. My wife.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah, you
See?
built. I mean, I know. I see the rings. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
got
yeah,
a family
yeah.
somewhere along
Yeah,
the way.
yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I didn't get my wife. I met her in 2008, and bus ministry,
Cool.
Victory Bus Ministry.
Oh, really? So
Uh-huh.
victory.
Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. She was already plugged in Victory. She was doing the bus. I was rolling the buses into my neighborhood, taking all my kids.
Mhm.
I met with them. They said, "Well, why don't you take over?" And I mentioned, I was like, at least let me get on the bus. Yeah, and I was like, well, we gotta do a background check and all that. I was like, I don't care. I was like, you're gonna find some stuff. Just let you know. It better not be what you want to see, but these are my kids, you know. And I was like, this is my neighborhood. Like, you know, we need to have some type of communication. So they ended up letting me be the bus captain, and then pretty much the rest is history on that. We just connected up, and I started doing stuff with their outreach and assisted them with like music and stuff like that, and being a little more culturally relevant to the people that they're trying to serve. And
Victory.
yeah, because it just wasn't culturally relevant to the
Sure.
to the demographic.
TJ went to their college, the
Uh-huh.
Victory College, and
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
asking him about because they just have this big machine that they built,
Mm-hmm.
you know, including you guys, and so I just wonder at the dynamics of a lot of that, because they obviously have a heart for North Tulsa, but also
Mhm.
that doesn't reflect the demographics here don't reflect the demographics of their main campus.
Yeah.
So how do you earn that trust? How do you
Mm-hmm.
accomplish good work?
And
it's
it was-
coming alongside community partners like you who decide they're worthy of trust.
And it was hard. Like, I mean, like Pastor Wendell, he'll tell you stories about how they used to throw rocks at the building and stuff like that. Like, it wasn't.
Like local people did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, like the Dream Center was not widely accepted by the community until after I came on.
Okay.
And it was primarily because like the community knew me
Mhm.
and they trusted me, and so it was like, okay, PT, he's over there, we can get with him, you know. But before then, it was just like this place had closed at 3:00 every day. It was open to the public Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and one Saturday out of the month. At the last Saturday of every month, they had things going on. But for the most part, there really wasn't anything really going on at the Dream Center prior to that. But there wasn't a lot of trust that was there. And even though, they ran buses all over the city and stuff like that and gave away stuff and did this mobile kids club trucks all over the place. Like, that stuff existed, but kind of like what you're saying, like there was no relationship
Right.
built. And
How many people? I'm going to change the subject completely. On
Mhm.
Fridays, you're going. It's clear to me that relationship building is where you guys are really strong. How many people are going out with you, door to door, building and maintaining those relationships on Fridays?
now, most of our TAs go.
TA stands for.
Yeah, teacher assistants. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Teacher
You have
assistants.
teachers. You don't have a school here on site, do you? But
Mm-mm.
you have partnerships with local schools where you have Dream Center TAs
Yeah,
that are in the local
the TAs
schools.
are like young adults that they're like college students, whether it's Victory College students or most of Oral Roberts students
Mhm.
and TU students that they work in an after-school program,
Okay.
and so
Which is on site.
which is on site or at the other two locations.
Okay.
And so
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
yeah, so I tell them all the time, say, hey, you want to have a better classroom management, an easier time with classroom management, do visitation.
And so do they visit primarily their own students?
Yeah, they'll visit their own students and they'll talk to their parents.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, but once the kid knows that you know where they live, their respect for you totally changes.
Right.
Because one is like, I know that you can talk to my mom.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like, as long as they think that, oh yeah, because it's like, you want me to talk to your mom? Now, the fact that I know who your mom is, you'd be like, whatever. But if you see me talk to your mom,
Uh-huh. If you've been in that living room. Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's all it's like, oh yeah. She's gonna be there on Friday. I want him to say nothing but good things. Well, I'm gonna get my butt beat. You know what I mean? And so like they know this, you know. And so I tell them all the time, like if a teacher assistant comes to me and say that they're struggling with the classroom management, I'm gonna ask you, have you been visiting?
Yeah.
You're gonna ask them what?
Have they been visiting?
Oh.
Yeah. Have you been
How
visiting?
many TAs do y'all have?
We have 20 this year. We typically have 10 at each site, but we only have 5 at our remote locations, so 10 between the two, and then 10 here.
Okay.
And so yeah, but all of them go out along with our family support specialist. We have a family support specialist. Her role is just basically tend to the needs of the family, boys and girls. So she bounces around from all 3 locations. If she sees things that needs to be done amongst the students, she takes care of those. She takes care of those things. So like she may know it's like, you know, this kid, you know, I knows that he's been wearing the same uniform shirt, or he's wearing, like, it seems like he only has a couple of the same, he has 2 or 3 pairs of uniform pants. Like, she noticed those things and she gets them. Or she may hear from a parent during visitation that, you know, the parent may not necessarily even say it outright that, oh, we don't have a bed. You know, I don't have a bed for this son, or I need this and I need that. Just in the homes, she'll say, okay, like, I see they need a bed, so then she'll put on Care Portal, you know, need a bed for a family, blah blah blah.
Because she's an actual DHS worker.
She's not, but we have a Care Portal account where we're able to we
Actually
see those
put out
needs,
requests,
and we
really?
actually put out requests as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they wanted us to fulfill orders. I said I can't just fulfill orders if we're not able to put stuff up on ourselves.
Sure.
And so we partner with Care Portal, and she put things up there. But then also, like, we may have things here, so she'll come to me and she'll say, hey, you know, like, I put this on Care Portal, but it's gone cold. We haven't had anyone to respond to it. Can we go into benevolence and buy this? And so we'll connect that and we'll get the stuff and get it over to the family. So that's her role. And so she does visitation during that time. I go out. I still love visitation. They try to, like, you don't have to do visitation.
Right,
like,
you're the ED.
I know
but
I don't have to, but like,
right.
this is what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, probably so.
Yeah, it's hard knowing how to spend your time because you're also the primary one. If you're showing up to a benefit dinner or showing up to some big public thing, I mean, you're the face.
Yeah.
Then people are going to give whenever the face of an organization. So you're probably the most influential fundraiser. But also, if you're not constantly putting that time in on the bottom, then you lose that trust, you know. And then they're going, what happened to that guy? So I'm surprised you were willing to sit down with us as long as you were today. Thank you for spending this time, because I'm sure there was 100 other things you could have been doing.
Yeah,
but
cool. I enjoy this.
Well, we do too. I mean, this is obviously really great for us. We're obviously coming from a very different context, rural. I mean, rural poverty is similar but different to urban poverty. Correct. And so I wonder, I mean, we have some overlap with your mission field, a lot of difference. I mean, our county has 10,000 people in it. You got that many in a couple blocks, you know. We do have a Boys and Girls Club that is growing and hopefully going to be engaging the community more, so it may or may not be wise for us to even think about going and doing some of the things that you're doing, because it's going to be done by the Boys and Girls Club. I do find myself wondering, you know, with my church, average attendance of 40 right now, net worth of $600K, thank God, you know, and we have probably $200,000 liquid that we could make liquid for God's glory. But we know we could burn that in a week if we wanted to, just giving it out. But how do we build relationships the right way so that spills over into doing more and more and makes a difference? Meth is huge, opiates is huge. I mean, we haven't even talked about addiction while we're sitting here, but that clearly overlaps with a lot. So I wonder where your wisdom is on what we should be looking into so far as, you know, knowing our religious history in that town of wanting good things, trying to build up, but not being able to make those connections. Where do you think wisdom is in using our assets for God's glory?
I would, like, when I first came to the Dream Center, one of the first things I did was I went down to Elwood, which is the street over here on the end here, and I knocked on every single door. And I just began to talk to the families. And it was literally like, it wasn't really like a survey, but I was just introducing myself. It's like, hey, you know, my name is Pastor Tim. I just started with the Dream Center here. And I just wanted to introduce myself. So what's your name? You know, and then from there, you know, I just began to, and that's really where visitation started. It started there. And I mean, just talking to them. And over time, I heard about needs. And it wasn't because, and I didn't point out, just ask them, so what would you like to see the Dream Center do? I never said that question. It was just like, so how's everything going? So, man, PT, you won't believe what happened. This is probably, like I say, like 3-4 months in, because now I've been to your house, you know, every other Friday for the last, because it takes me time to, you know, circulate around, but I've spoken to you like 3 or 4 times now. I may be just walking around, and then I see you, and you threw your hand up, and hey, how you doing today? You know, just maybe, and I go and say, hey man, so what's been going on? How you been? And then they begin to tell me, oh man, this stuff is happening, and so I'm hearing, you know, like, yeah, like, man, these kids over here, they were breaking in their house over there, and they got in a fight over here, and I was like, man, it's like,
all the drama.
Yeah. So you're hearing all this drama, right? And he's like, okay, well, what? And so then back on mine, like, we need something for these kids, you know, and that's how, you know, that's how it came. Like, because I knew, like, and it's the whole while I was still doing my after school program at Vernon Manor. I hadn't moved here because they were there. Like, I didn't have a bus or anything to move the kids from Vernon Manor to the Dream Center. I was there, and so began over time. I just began just talk to him, and I would hear.
Were you married? Yeah, you were married at this point.
At this point, yes.
And then you got kids?
My daughter, she wasn't born. My daughter, she's 8. She's my oldest, and then I have a 4-year-old son.
I'm just, the logistics of, I mean, it totally makes sense. Yes, going door to door, building relationships, earning trust, a lot of that stuff happens organically. That's time that could be spent in other places. As an administrator of a church, there's plenty of things to be done for a church. Van, you're better at visiting people than I am, but you don't have kids in the house like I do.
And it may not be you, it may be someone else.
Right.
You know, someone else that's under you. I mean, because, like, for instance, like when I wasn't the executive director when I was doing those things. You know, Pastor Wendell was. You know, he was the fundraiser, the one going out, you know, raising money for the Dream Center. But I think at that time, like, our annual budget was like $200,000. So very similar to where you guys are right now. Like, it wasn't much at all. Like, because I remember I asked, I said, what's the budget? And it was like, he kind of laughed. He's like, we're keeping the lights on.
Yeah, trying to do stuff on $200,000 a year. I mean, that is my annual budget, honestly. It's a little bit bigger, but I mean, we're not trying to do all the things you guys are trying to do.
Exactly. And so from that, so they really wasn't even, they wasn't really wanting me to expand anything from a standpoint of it's going to cost the Dream Center any money. They just knew that, hey, this young guy has a really good pulse on the community, and, you know, we need someone that has a heart for this area. And Pastor Wendell was like, I'm not going to be here forever. And so if there's, you know, like, right after he hired me, like, it was pretty much an assumption that one day you're going to have my job. You know, like, that was, you know, he never said, frankly, I told him, I was like, if I'm going to be here, I'm in this, I want him to have your job. You know, he was like, yes, that's my plan. You know, and so for him, he was just thinking succession, not, like, he didn't know how far I was going to go with it. But I wasn't that guy, so I had that freedom to go around. So he was still up here doing grocery giveaway, and I'm out, you know, knocking on doors and that build relationship and just talking to people. But because they would say things like, man, like, I don't know how to, you know, we used to have a computer class, for instance. We had some computers that someone donated, and it was multiple people that donated, so none of them looked the same, and, you know, it's like a bunch of donated computers. And but they were sitting here. No one used them. Most of them was in boxes, was set up, and so I ended up taking them and setting them all up, putting them on folding tables and folding chairs in front of them, and we was talking about how, like, I would hear people saying, like, yeah, I don't know how to use, I don't know how to get on the internet or email, like all this technology stuff is, I don't know what they do here. I think like MySpace was still a thing at that time. You know, I think Facebook even was like really on. Facebook was around, but it wasn't like prevalent like it is today. You know, but hearing them talk, it was like, huh, like, and so I say, like, you think we should do a computer class at the Dream Center? Or I may not say anything at all. I may say, I put something together, and then I go to them and say, hey, we want to start a computer class. Are you interested? And I know you are because you just said it 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And so those are the ones and I was just, and if I had just, even though I had just 10 people, like 10 people was a win for me. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, I got this computer class. You wanna come to it? Oh, yeah. Then they come. We stand up here and grocery giveaways. Like, because at that time, again, people only came for food, clothing, and medical. That's it. So anytime someone came for food, clothing, medical, I'm talking to them, telling them about, hey, we got this computer class that we're doing on Tuesdays. You should come. Or this class, because at that time we're still Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It was like the primary time was open. And so it's like we have these opportunities for you to come and be a part of. And so yeah, they would do that. And that's how we grew. You know, as conversations, hearing them, even when they come for like food, they come for hot meals, I would sit down with them and just talk to them while they're eating, and I would hear just things, you know, like that stuff that they're going through, anything that they're facing, and I think was okay, like what could the Dream Center do to help respond to this? Because if they're going through it, I bet there's more people's going through it. And then if I hear from someone else and someone else, if I hear from 3 or 4 people, I'm like, okay, this is a problem. And so same thing, I would hear parents talk about how like that's how I started after school program. We opened up the gym, kids started coming in. Boys and girls would come in with their backpacks. PT, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this math? Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? I got this. Can you do these? Can you read off my flashcards with me? It's like, okay, sure. And so we had so many kids that was asking about it. I reached out to a lady. She called part of my prayer shield, Miss Marcia. She would come in and she'd pray. Say, anything if you want me to pray about? I was like, man, I got all these boys and girls that they're needing help with their homework, and it's just me. It's like me and 60 kids in here, and like, I just need some. Like I'm just praying and just asking God for wisdom on what to do. It's like I was a high school dropout, so some of this stuff is like I be trying to figure it out. And so the next Monday, this was like on a Thursday. That next Monday, she came to me. She was like, "I'm here." I was like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "I'm here to help you with your after school program." She was the first person that said the phrase after school program. I'm thinking to myself, we don't have no after school program. I told her they got kids. I'm trying to figure out with their homework. And she was like, I'm a retired teacher. I'm here to help you. And she's the one that really formatted it together like what it needs to be. And it really was just, and when I say format, it was just like, okay, we're going to have the kids come upstairs and do their homework, and then we're going to let them go play. All right. And we just started from there. But it's based off that needs of kids. And sure enough, like we went from 60 to 100, 150, 50 to 200, 200, 250, 3. Now we're serving over 400 boys and girls every day. You know, and so, but it just grew from there. But it was based off of those.
And to manage those 400 children till what, 6 o'clock in the evening? How many adults on site?
That's between the 3 locations. And
no, just here on this. Just here on this site.
Yeah, on this site we have about 125. Then
Really?
the rest of them off site.
Okay.
Yeah. We do 125 here. And it depends on the day, honestly, because we have another 50 youth that are like teenagers. So 6th grade through 12th grade, they come on Mondays and Wednesdays. And then on the other sites, well, except for the 6th grade, we have 6th grade all the way Monday through Thursday. But Mondays and Wednesdays is when like the 7th through 12th graders are here, and it's about 50 of them. And so on those days.
So you have some paid staff here, but you also have a lot of volunteers, a lot of adult volunteers.
Yeah, mostly volunteers.
And are they under the umbrella of Victory, or are they pretty much?
Dream Center, we have our own volunteer like process and everything.
Sure.
We run it through Victory's HR department, so they do all like the background check. But we pay for it, but the department processes all those. So that way they don't have to pay for, all like a staff person just to do background checks and everything.
Right.
And so
It's a huge machine y'all have built. It's very impressive. I've hogged the time for the most part. Do either of you guys have any stuff you've been sitting on for Tim?
you guys want to walk around and see the place?
Would love to, yeah. All right, so it's a day later, and I've had a day to kind of just sit on my thoughts and digest what we encountered yesterday. It was quite a visit. Tim ended up spending 2 hours with us from start to finish, and I don't know how much we'll make it into the final version of this that we put out, but just constant information washing over us. There are a couple lasting impressions that I kind of wanted to share. One of which being that I'm generally skeptical of two things that I see in lots of institutions. One of which being the institution being too married to one individual personality. So a church just being married to the personality of their head pastor, I think, is often very problematic. Two, I think it's a heavily flawed model to build relationships with people and try and work transformation in their lives by giving them free stuff. I just don't think, I know everybody does it with good intentions, but I think generally it does the opposite of what it's trying to do. It's wanting to empower people, but often it disempowers them and makes them dependent and forms a bad self-image. Anyway, both of those predispositions that I carried with me were very challenged yesterday because what we encountered was an institution that is very married to the personality of Tim, that is doing excellent work. Tim seems to be up to the task of being the icon for his organization, and they seem to be working great and genuine transformation in the lives of the people who enter their orbit, and it seems to be a significant number of people. So, the question I then have is how much of the good that they're doing are they doing because of the things that I have a problem with or in spite of the things that I have a problem with? And the answer is it really doesn't matter because who cares what I think? But I'm trying to learn the lessons from them that can be used here in this context for the good of our local poor. And I don't know how much of this will translate over, but I came in with certain assumptions about what they did because of what other dream centers do that I'm aware of. And they really do different work. A lot of their work overlaps much more with Boys and Girls Club of America than it does with, say, an addiction facility or homeless facility. They do kind of a combination of, locally speaking, the church, Boys and Girls Club, and Grand Lake Mental Health with their wraparound care. But everything that they do at the Dream Center is faith-oriented, so they're not bringing families in and then churning them out into government programs or local secular nonprofits. Rather, they're connecting them with Christ and with a Christian worldview that then empowers them to seek their Creator together. And if I could, I really would wish to talk more with Tim about that because he is considered a pastor. He leads religious services there, and they're associated with Victory Church. I wanted to acknowledge that what seems to be the biggest lesson from yesterday is the impact of relationships. At one point, I asked him, I told him some about our context here in Nowata, and I said, okay, here's our context and our frustrations, and then here's your context and the work that you're able to do. What are we missing? What if you were in our shoes, what would you work on? And his answer, very gracious, was that we need to work more on building relationships. He talked about beating the pavement and building relationships with people, going door to door and earning trust, and not even talking about front end, I want you to do this, but just showing that you care about the people you care to serve. And that's something that a lot of institutions and the people in charge just don't have a lot of patience for. You really have to admire someone who has the patience for that. And no matter how big their organization has gotten, they're still beating the pavement and going door to door, sitting in people's living rooms, getting to know them and their struggles, and doing this kind of community resourcing bit that's it's impressive and it's effective. I'd like to believe that Tim is the man that he needs to be for this role. In this day and age, we're so familiar with leaders who get isolated or they get too full of themselves. They don't walk that line. They start blurring the lines of morality and making bad decisions. And I didn't how could I have any indication about Tim and whether or not he has what it takes to just be a man of perfect, upright integrity? I was only with him for 2 hours. But, I did really get the sense about him that this is an extension of him and his faith. He was not afraid to flex, and he knew where his strengths as a leader are, and yet he still carried a great humble demeanor with him. He was not a blowhard. He was not full of hot air. We didn't ask like real direct confrontational questions, but we did ask questions that kind of you would be able to feel out if he really didn't know what he was talking about, or if he was taking credit for something someone else was doing. And the impression I got is that he was just a real straight shooter who had a genuine love for Christ and for the community he's chosen to serve. And as we went around the building, we talked to these different people in the building, employees. It was fall break, and everybody was relaxed and happy. We went by rooms where they did not know we were coming by. Why would they even care if some hicks from No Water were coming by anyway? But they were happy, smiling at each other, planning out educational units together. They were happy to talk with us. They were happy to talk about how much they loved the leadership there. And in the end, I came away thinking, this is one of the most special institutions I've ever gotten to see from the inside. Most nonprofit institutions are dysfunctional. They have resentful employees and staff. They have a lot of programs that aren't doing much, that they're just doing because I got grandfathered in or because somebody has strong feelings about it. I really got the sense that the Dream Center was doing effective work, that they were constantly innovating. They were building relationships not just with local people, but with local nonprofits and governmental organizations, and doing it on their terms rather than selling out for money. I was just really impressed from the get-go to the very end with what seemed to be a very an organization with a lot of integrity. So how much of that can be applied to our context locally, I don't know. A lot of it, I wonder if the local Boys and Girls Club might benefit a lot more than I would from that time if they just watched it, or heck, local sports, who knows. But I do know that it was time well spent, that I was personally refreshed and encouraged. And I guess at the tail end of this, if you've watched this far, I just hope you were too. I hope you found this all as exciting and engaging as I did. There are people and institutions doing a lot of amazing work, and I think we're right to try and pay attention to that and learn from that. So God bless you. Thanks for joining me.